Hello and welcome to the Larger Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 83. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
I'm David.
I'm Pawel.
Hi boys.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
I think it's awesome.
Good.
No, it's awesome.
We're back.
We're back.
The bad boys of Scottish gaming podcasts.
I'm neutral good.
Yeah, we've had some feedback over the past
Yeah,
couple
we're
of
bad
weeks.
boys, alright?
We're bad
Pawel,
boys.
you're a bad boy too.
No.
Don't ruin the fun.
Okay. I'll wear, like, black leather jacket or something.
Paint a skull on the back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think somebody on Board Game Geek totally missed us being sarcastic about us saying that we were an authority on board gaming.
Hey, we are an authority.
You and you clearly seem to think so.
I definitely do. I think we're the bad boy authorities of board gaming. And Kickstarter acquisitions that you have to kind of justify after the fact.
Well, yeah, come on, we didn't try and justify freedom at all. I mean, I sank money into that, and
You're owning up to it.
I'm owning up to the fact
We'll
that
probably
I'll back
play
something I'm
that
probably
rubbish
not going
game
to keep.
again.
Yeah. Well, like I say, we'll give it another go. Anyway, I'll explain what we meant when. So we've sorted it out. We've sorted it out. Right? No need to worry. We haven't started an argument or anything. But yeah, we're not here to talk about board games though. We're here to talk about video games this week. We've got a few chunky ones to talk about this week, and we're also going to do Retro Games Book Club at the end of the episode. So it's going to be June for this week. But first off, Pawel,
Hello.
you've been playing BattleTech.
I have been playing
And
BattleTech.
I'm sure you're bursting to tell us all about it.
There is some busting going on, yes. I have been waiting to play BattleTech for the past 2 years. This is a Kickstarter, quite successful. I think Hellbrain Studios was planning to raise like $250,000. They ended up with maybe $3 million, something like this. Plenty of, I'm assuming, maybe old-time fans of BattleTech franchise as such, who were hungry for a new outing in the franchise. This is a very old franchise, so some of our listeners might actually not know what BattleTech is. And if you do not know, then shame on you, honestly. As in, I mean, that is just terrible.
Can I cut in quickly? So BattleTech was originally a tabletop game, right?
Very much so.
And it was played on a big map with everybody having very complicated mechs with damaged things and stuff, damaged boxes on them and all this sort of stuff.
You say this,
Yes.
and I feel my heart swell with joy.
I remember when I was a kid, one of my brother's friends had this, and it was so complicated, and he kept trying to talk us out of playing it, because I don't think he understood the rules at all.
Right. Yes, in fact, what I'm going to do is, we'll see whether I even manage to speak about the game itself. I'll quickly say, yes, it is a Kickstarter game by Hellbrain Studios. So the makers of the recent Shadowrun games, 3 of those, they have now acquired the license to do BattleTech, and they have done it splendidly. It's a turn-based, isometric view tactical game. And before I go any further, just a quick note about what BattleTech is, because I think it's what you said, Chris, is actually quite accurate.
Yeah.
And I must say, as I'm looking at forums and reviews, I find it quite amusing from my old man's perspective how what BattleTech is and its strengths and upsides, how it's been not only formatted to the 21st century, but also how it is viewed by, let's say, an uninitiated potential fan or customer.
Youngins, you mean?
You youngins don't know what a good game is.
Get off my lawn!
No, all you said about the rules being complicated and complex, It's very true, and it's pretty much what I grew up on. This was my first and only actual, what you call it, war game as such. And BattleTech became the first edition of BattleTech was actually released before Warhammer 40,000. So that's ancient times. I'm looking at a Wikipedia page because that's our one and only source of knowledge, really. And it says here 1984 was when the franchise was launched.
Really? Is it that old?
Yeah.
That's as old as me.
There you go. And just to give you an understanding of how big that franchise was and why it's important that it's now returning. Well, important to some people, and hopefully finding new customers as well in the, let's say, younger generations again. I'm gonna feel pretty old talking about BattleTech, I think, but it's fine. It's okay. I can take it, I think. There's been so many versions and editions of the core BattleTech wargaming. So we're talking miniatures. We're talking, in this particular case, a map with a grid on it rather than what you do in whatever Warhammer Fantasy or 40k or whatever. But there's been over 100 novels set in this franchise. There's been probably well over 20 video games. There's been card games. There was a TV show, a cartoon, back in the times of He-Man and stuff like that. So it was a big deal back in the day. And then it sort of went under the radar. So it's coming back now. For a few years, there's been a moderately successful sort of online skirmish PvP game that some like and some dislike. But then, yes, then we have arrived at the Kickstarter by HBS, who have approached the franchise from an angle that I am absolutely delighted by. You would think that a franchise that's all about essentially huge robots battling each other would be just about that, but BattleTech is actually, well, it's mostly politics. It's a lot of history. Yeah.
I'm right. Am I right in saying that this is a management game more than anything else?
The video game.
Yeah, the video game
has got a couple of different, I'm gonna say, well, I don't know, modes or challenges, if you name it. You play as a mercenary outfit commander, so you have a small force to manage. Yes, so and you'll manage just about every aspect of your mercenary life. You're negotiating contracts down to the aspects like how far you have to travel to pick up a job, what sort of obviously reputation you gain along with payment, and I don't know, salvage you gain from the battlefield. But whether it's your staff health, whether it's paying off debts for the fact that you're even able to move from one star system to the other. BattleTech franchise has always strived to be as sort of plausible tech-wise as possible. Most of science fiction content of this franchise can be considered hard as F. So they went the similar routes and they approach to this game, and it's all very grounded, I would say, where you don't. Yeah, let me put it. I'll try and do it in a more structured way, because this is a big game with a lot of content in it, and the devs put a lot of work not only in the actual gameplay side of things, but also and the actual, I'm going to say, lore content as such, and the management aspects of it as well. But the core gameplay that you would expect from a tactical turn-based game is there. You move your units, in this case battle mechs as such, around whatever map, and you shoot at your enemies or whatever other targets on goals you might have in a given mission.
Does it have hexes on the map still?
Not in this game, no. But when you're moving around,
Controversial.
as in, it doesn't look like hexes, but for all intents and purposes, the hexes are there.
Is it turn-based or
It is turn-based, although
it would be, yeah.
even the turn-based aspect as such is very well thought of to ensure that tactical opportunities are there for certain classes of your battle mechs, and to allow you flexibility as you move around and plan your turns as such. And again, I'm not going to be able to cover all of this in one go. I'll prepare like a list of things to give you a full detail of it because I want to, and you have to listen to it because you're there. So there you go. Because it's just so juicy. There's going to be people out there that will think, yeah, that's too much. And you know what? Yeah, it's going to be too much for some. This game is complex and it's not shying away from it. If you have tutorials you go through to learn the gameplay aspects of it, you're going to spend half an hour, if not more, just reading through this. And you know what? And it's delightful. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because translating BattleTech into a video game turn-based format was already quite a challenge, and I think that HBS has really gone above and beyond of the goal that I would have hoped they would have set for themselves. But it's not just mechanics of the game, but even the content of lore present in this game, and the way your conversations with your crewmates go, your contracts are picked up and negotiated, the main plot line presented, the background shown shows how lovingly this game was made. I've taken part in a lot of Kickstarters in the past, and some of them have been what I was hoping they would be. Some of them were maybe not overly so. For BattleTech, I'm just overjoyed. They've released.
Right.
Sorry, I've not said.
You're full of gushing praise for what they've done.
Yeah, because that's
I still don't know what this game is. You haven't told me.
Juice.
What? Are you expecting me to actually get down to the details?
Well, we know there's mechs.
We know there's mechs.
Right, I should probably say
We know you
that
like
a battle mech is a bipedal war machine, heavily armoured, It's between 20 and 100 tons of weight, and in this particular franchise, it is essentially the ultimate weapon of war. So there's going to obviously be whatever aerospace machines. There's going to be orbital bombarding bombs. There you go.
But Pawel, we want to hear about the people behind the battle mechs.
That's the Mech Warriors, which is the pilots and the cockpits of those machines. Each of them with a set of skills. If we're talking about the actual video game, each of them with a background, various specialties, I should say.
I have a question. Do any of the mechs have more than one person in them?
Well, not in the game as such. And the franchise lore, you will find that some mechs will have.
Yeah, but we're not asking about the franchise lore.
No, I mean, well,
it's always one pilot.
Always one. But you're saying that, like, in the wider BattleTech world, there might be more than one pilot.
There were attempts to put in passenger seats in some cockpits.
Passengers.
It's very rare. It's very rare.
I imagine it would be. I mean, like, you know, like F-22 fighters don't often have a passenger seat in them. So
right.
I just wondered why it's always one person. Why is there never two people? I mean, these things are immensely complex. I know from BattleTech that, like, nothing is simple, and you're like, oh, well, we'll just fire my gun. It's like, well, no, you can't just fire your gun. There's a bit more, there's a bit more to it than that. It's not just about firing your guns. So why don't have, like, a second person in to help?
Sorry, you mean franchise-wise in the video game?
Just in general.
And the franchise...
It's just a mech thing.
Or maybe even 3 people. I mean...
Oh my god! I mean, firstly, there is the tech in the actual franchise requires of the mech warrior to actually wear a helmet that sort of links certain aspects of how your brain chemistry works to keep you walking, and share that with the system as such. So your gyro is only working if you're wearing whatever helmet. I can't remember the name of it just now, but that's that. But I think the important part here is that this is a direct translation from your medieval set of armor. All these mechs are ancient, heavily repaired after every battle, constantly changing, getting repaired, upgraded, and inherited by your, heirs. So you wouldn't just put somebody else in what's your privilege and obligation to your liege lord. It's
sounding a lot like 40k now.
And 40k came after that, so there you go.
Dave, I was thinking maybe maybe the mechs do have one pilot, but maybe they do a Power Rangers and form all their machines together to form a super mech.
Does that ever
That'd be
happen,
good.
Are you gonna try now and trigger me? Is that what you're gonna try and do? I'm not taking that in front of a lot of you.
So, right, I know that there was, like in the 90s, there was a kind of Battletech game, Mech Warrior games.
Yes, so...
Are they basically just skipping all that whole... Are they going back to the basics is what I'm asking? Or are they just saying, here's a direct translation, or not a direct translation, but here's a translation of the Battletech original tabletop game?
I mean, don't get me wrong, Mech Warrior games,
I
think there were 5 or 6 of them, were amazing and an absolute classic.
I'd be tempted to pick them for the Retro Games book club, because I played those games a lot when I was a kid.
Oh, me too. And that's a first-person shooter, essentially, yeah? And I think most of modern or semi-modern Battletech video games were essentially that, various kinds of first-person shooters. Apart from that, you would have things like Mech Warrior and Mech Commander and Mech Commander 2, and those were real-time strategies, also quite successful. But a turn-based Battletech game, the last one that I'm aware of, was a fairly ancient time. So yeah, that is them coming back to the roots of the franchise as far as gameplay is considered, but also lore, because they chose a very classic, very traditional time period for this game, which some long-time fans weren't particularly happy about, because there's obviously a huge fan base for Battletech, most of them in their I'm assuming 30s and 40s nowadays, and the game spawned so many novels, so many different time periods. HBS had to pick something, and they picked something that.
So the Mech Warrior games, are those considered canonical?
Very much so.
Oh, that's all right then.
Oh
yeah. So my childhood wasn't wasted. I wasn't playing non-canonical stuff.
I don't. This is a huge franchise. I don't think there's so much. Most of this stuff is canonical.
Oh, right.
Where does Gundam fit in?
Gundam doesn't fit.
Oh.
Having said that, there is some lawsuits somewhere there between between certain battle mech chassis creators, I would say, and licensees, or whatever you name it. Some mechs that I could use in the past in, say, a war game cannot make it into this game simply because the lawsuit is not resolved and stuff like this. Doesn't matter. You turn up. I should probably mention, because for some people that's important, that if the game had what do they call it, the first day patch, is that what it's called nowadays? Yeah,
something like that.
There's going to be further patches, I'm sure, to obviously make sure that it's optimized for most machines. I'm not really having any problems, but there were some people having problems initially to starting it up or making it actually perform on Steam. There were people just staring at blank screen when they would turn the game on. It does take maybe a minute or two to properly load up, but after that everything works perfectly fine, and you treat it with a intro movie that I could actually watch just for the sake of watching it. I don't even have to play the game. The intro movie for this game is pretty much what BattleTech should be about, with amazing music and art. I mean, the soundtrack for this game, because I obviously backed Kickstarter to get soundtrack as well, is 3 hours. John Everest is like a genius, and he's come up with a 3-hour soundtrack. I'm going to be listening for months.
Right, thank you, Pawel. We're going to have to move on.
I will be back next week with more BattleTech chat.
Yes, I was going to say, that was Pawel's introduction to next week's review.
He's got to tee these things up.
He's told us that this game was made and that there's some lore in it. I think that was pretty much all I got.
Well, that's the information we'll be taking into
There's
next
some Mechs.
There's Mechs, yeah, there's Mechs. And it's turn-based.
But no Gundams.
Yeah. So next week, Pawel's actually going to tell us how to play this game.
Yes. With pleasure. I'm sure that everybody's looking forward to it. I am.
Right. Definitely going to have to move on. So I'm going to... Sorry, BattleTech, that's by Hellbrain Schemes. And they did like the Shadowrun games and stuff,
all 3 Shadowruns recently, yes.
Decent company then.
I would hug them if I saw them on the street. And I would never let go.
Well, that's a bit terrifying.
Yes. Please come visit.
Okay, right. Pawel, again, has been begging me to talk about this game. I was absent during the last video games episode, and I think I would have talked about it then if I'd been here. But I'm going to talk about Surviving Mars, which came out, last month, I think it was, March 2018. And this is by, what they called again, sorry, Hamimont Games, who made the Tropico series. And that was what sort of, made me take notice, because I saw this and I saw what it was, and it was one of these things that sat on my Steam wish list and just kind of when it comes out I might pick it up. But it was when I realised that this was the people that made Tropico, I thought,
yeah.
It's a kind of similar style of game, and I thought, well, it's probably going to be decent then. So I picked it up, and it is what you think it is. It's called Surviving Mars. You're the first, you're playing it's a management game, sort of almost like city building game, where basically you're the first sort of, I don't know what you are, like some sort of company. I think you can pick to be different types of company, and you get different bonuses depending on what you are. But I've put it on the sort of the more basic modes. Didn't make it any more difficult or less difficult. I think I just left everything as it was and went into the game, just quick started it. And you're that sort of company that's the first company being sent to actually settle Mars. So you have a blank Mars canvas, basically. There's just the Martian terrain's there, there's hills and mountains, and it's all red dust. And all you really start with is a few vehicles and some drones. And you have to start making Mars habitable for people to then turn up. So basically what you're doing is you're going to be... you have rockets in this game, so you've got rockets. I think you start the game with... I think it differs depending on how you change the difficulty and stuff, but I think I've got 4 at my disposal. And you can bring rockets in with materials from Earth and also some other things depending on what point in the game you're at. But you can bring these materials in and start building things. And really what the goal that I'm trying to get is that you want to try and make it sort of sustainable, so that it's like you don't have to keep sending rockets to Earth to get stuff, but you will have to do it at some point. And obviously the one way to get people onto the planet in the first place is you have to send them in a rocket. So you start off, we've got these little vehicles. You start off with 3 sort of main vehicles, and at first it's kind of strange because they seem a bit like, what are these all about? But you've got an RC Rover, an RC Explorer, an RC Transport. The Rover has control of the drones, some drones basically. You can then build drone hubs in various sort of strategic points around the map that will then be able to cover a certain area with drones. Again, you can get drones from Earth. If you need more drones, get a rocket, get some drones on the planet. There's the Explorer. Now that studies anomalies, so you're going to be sort of like exploring the map using basically like satellites, and you will find anomalies, and you can send your explorer out to find like discover these anomalies, see what they are. Sometimes it's resources, sometimes it's other things. You might actually find some sort of technological advance, not through sort of aliens or anything. It's just basically through, I think, scientific study of the planet. You might get some technological advance through it. There's also the transport that can pick up materials and move them around places, and you can control these vehicles. You can't, you can, but you can't really do very much with the drones in terms of like manual control of them. You can send them places, but you can't really tell them to do very much.
So you manually control those 3 vehicles?
You manually control the 3 vehicles. You can get more of those vehicles. You can get them from Earth and get them sent up to you. At the moment, I think I did get another drone vehicle, the rover vehicle, but I've not really done anything other than that. So it's got that sort of system where you decide that you're going to build a certain building somewhere. So say you want to put something in that's going to get water up from underneath the Martian soil. You put a building in like that. You have to have the drones and the materials nearby, and the drones will automatically go and build it if that's possible. If it's possible for them to start building that because the materials are there, they will go and start doing it, and then they'll automatically build the building once they've got all the materials there. So it's one of those things where you're not really... It's almost like that... what's the game that I absolutely love playing that has just completely gone out of my mind? The Colony Simulator? RimWorld? It's that kind of similar style of thing where you don't directly control, because you can think of the drones as being like the people in RimWorld. You don't directly control them really, you just tell them, you just put in a thing and say, I want this thing built, and then
somebody picks up the job.
The AI will do it for you, basically. Yeah, somebody picks up the job and goes and does it, and that's what your drones are doing. So like I say, when you start, you've just got this blank canvas and you have to start building things up. So one of the things I did was like, there's concrete deposits and there's things like metal deposits and rare metals, and but some of these buildings that you use, like you build to actually get those materials. So like the concrete one, you can put that on top of a concrete deposit and it will automatically just start digging up the concrete for you, as long as it's powered. Because yes, this is a city building style game, so things need to be powered, things need to, like if there's people going to be living there, or if there's farms or stuff, they need to have water, need to have oxygen, that kind of thing. So the concrete thing will automatically just start digging up concrete, and then storing it behind itself. If there's drones there, they'll go and pick it up if they can take it to a place that you've designated as a storage area. And what it's about really is trying to get things in strategic positions so that, you know, your drones will pick up the concrete, take it to a resource place, and you've put that resource place somewhere where you're trying to try and build buildings that are made out of concrete around it. So the drones that are in that area will then go, all right, okay, there's some concrete, I'll go and start building this thing that you've asked us to build. But some of these buildings, like the rare metal ones and the metal ones, for example, they need people, I believe. I think those two do need people to actually man them. So you're not going to get anything like that at the start of the game, because you've not got any people on the planet. Now, in order to get people there, you have to build domes. So these are actual, you know, like that sci-fi dome style thing. It's what you think it is. It's just a big circle with a dome over it, and you have to make sure that you've got oxygen, which you can get from out of the ground, basically. There's oxygen deposits and stuff. But you can also get prefab buildings, which will come from your rockets. Which you can order them from Earth, basically. And they're very special buildings that you can get, which will just generate stuff for you. But they're expensive as well, because you do have funding, you do have a budget. And really the only way to get money is by sending stuff like rare metals back to Earth, and you will be paid for that. So you have to, at the start of the game, you're just going to be spending a lot of money just sending rockets to Earth, bringing them back again, and they take time to get there and back, obviously. And then building up your domes. Now, inside the domes themselves, you have to build buildings in there. And you have to build places for people to sleep at, to live in. You've got to build things like places for them to work, because the people themselves all have needs and personality traits and stuff. So somebody might be an alcoholic if you've not got a bar in there, which they've called the space bar. If you've not got the bar in the dome that they're living in, then they'll get upset.
That's what alcoholics tend to do, yeah.
There you go. You got other things like, so people might like to, you can build a space casino, people might like to gamble, but all these things, they all give certain things to the people that use them, so they might make them happier or whatever. But I mean, if you've got a casino, it might turn people into gamblers.
So you essentially settle mass to enable all your
Oh,
addicts
yeah.
to... Okay.
Yeah, you've got to. I mean, there's definitely other buildings that you can put in, because there are. I'm trying to think of what some of the other recreation buildings actually are, but I think there is like gyms and stuff like that. So like if people are active, then And one of the things that becomes clear, because the first part of the game is really about building up your stuff, so that you've got concrete being created, like dug out the ground. You've got other things so you're trying to become sustainable.
Before even humans arrive.
Before humans even get there. But once the humans get there, it becomes a dome management game, because you need to make sure that the domes themselves have a sort of area of influence around them, and it's not that big, okay? But if you want to dig something like rare metals out of the ground, you have to put a rare metal factory on top of one of the deposits, but then build a dome next to it, because the people need to get to that factory.
So it's not going to be drones digging that.
It's not drones digging it out, it's the people. And so you have to make sure you've got the right types of people as well. You need to have geologists doing it. So you have to get to a dome next to this factory and then just say, I want geologists in this dome. But, you have to then make sure that dome, if it's got geologists in it, those geologists have all got stuff that's going to keep them happy, otherwise their morale starts to drop, and eventually they might just, go mad.
Alcoholic geologists.
Well, there you go. I mean, and definitely, by the way, the job types themselves have, likely traits that come with them. So I think, geologists are much more likely to drink and stuff like that. But you also got to, you have farms and things, so you get, they're not called farmers. I think, what are they? Botanists. You'll have botanist people that you can say. And when you send a rocket to Earth, you can tell them, I want more of this type of this type of skill. But you're not guaranteed to get it, but you are more likely. So yeah, it becomes a sort of a balancing game of just making sure that the people in the domes are happy, that they're working. One of the things is, if they're working outside the dome, if they're out in space, that does put their morale down a bit, because they have to go and put their spacesuit and bound across the Martian terrain to get to their work every day and then back again. And it's depressing for them, so because they just these people just want to live in their green, bright, spacious domes. They don't want to have to go out into the Martian terrain.
Fair enough.
But I mean, it's all about small problems. This game, it's all about it's one of these games where you're sitting playing it and there's a wee problem there. I'm going to go and fix that. Or there's a problem there. I'm going to go and fix that. And then 15 hours have gone past it in real time, because you've just been fixing small problems here and there, because you have to keep the power supply up. You have to make sure all the domes are powered, they've got enough water, they've got enough oxygen, and these things break down because the Martian dust wears away at them. And the drones have to be there, they have to be ready to fix it,
Yeah, the drone. Sorry, I've seen plenty of reviews where people for some reason kept focusing on either lack of micromanagement that they would prefer to have, or problems with AI. Have you noticed anything like that? I
have had some issues with the AI, where sometimes the drones, even though there's work that they could be doing, they've just sat there and not done it. And I don't know if I'd see it, because I was sitting there thinking, is this a bug or have I done something wrong? And it's hard to tell with this game sometimes, because sometimes it's not that obvious. There was an occasion where I think one of my vehicles had actually just run out of power, and that's why its drones were doing nothing, because the drones themselves then run out of power. So I don't know. I haven't experienced any major bugs, I would say.
Well, if it's not detrimental, then
I'm not saying anything like a detrimental game. It's been enjoyable. I mean, I think I've basically covered it. I think the only other main thing that is in the game that I haven't mentioned is that there is a technology tree, where and the technologies aren't so much big breakthroughs or anything like that. It's all just about making life easier for you. So it might do something like increase the production of your concrete buildings and all these sort of little things so far. But I haven't played a great deal of the game. I've only got 3 domes at the moment, and just trying to keep them functioning is a job in itself. And then trying to I've been shifting colonists around. You go and live in that dome and that dome and that dome, just to make sure that there's a mixture of people. But yes, one of the other things, there is one thing that keeps you sort of playing the game, which is that it's achievement based. So you get a list of achievements that you can do. So one of the first things that you get is just build your first dome or whatever. Or and I've recently got the first Martian, so the first person born on Mars.
Born. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
born in Mars. So
Did you
my colonists
name
are.
them Marvin?
No, I didn't. I don't know. Maybe you can change their names. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so like if people are happy, if their morale's high enough, they'll start having kids. And you have to start putting nurseries into the
Humans are
domes.
strange
And,
this way, yeah.
yeah. I mean, happy people like to have sex, apparently.
So I must say, knowing your gaming preferences, I usually find it hard to believe that you play any management games.
I play a lot of management games.
Well, exactly, and I don't fully understand it because my understanding of your gaming preferences is chaos.
I do like chaos.
And management games are about order.
But I like chaos in games where... like stuff like Skyrim and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love causing chaos in games like that.
So I see you playing this game and just preparing this huge problem for one of the domes running out of air and all these colonists just comically dying. Is that what?
But no, but the thing
something
is,
you do?
I think the difference here is that I also like solving problems. That's one of the things I enjoy having a problem to solve. So when I've got a game like this where you're presented with so many small problems, I do get a kick out of solving them and seeing what I've done wrong and then shouting at myself.
So is there any sort of overall goal, any end game stuff, like become fully independent from Earth?
I don't know. Like I say, there is that list of achievements, so I haven't really looked down it because really I just started the game and just started playing it just to see what it is. So I don't know what the actual end goal is. I've got a vague recollection of. I think I had to research a certain amount of technologies by a certain day. So at the moment, that's my current goal. So that, like I say, it's almost like the achievement-based game where they're basically they're saying to you, here's something to work towards, go and do it, and then off you go and you go and do it. You could just ignore it all.
I like that Pawel's go-to thing is forming a breakaway nation and declaring yourself
independent from Earth.
Probably following that up by declaring war.
I wouldn't mind that, yeah. Those Earthlings, honestly. But no, it's just because in this particular game, obviously, getting stuff delivered from Earth seems to be a major expense. So you would think that becoming fully self-reliant sounds like a major milestone.
I think that is the general idea. I think that's basically what you're working towards, I think.
Because I suppose in most management games, your main goal is to just stay afloat.
Yeah.
And because I remember, because I keep playing Anno, is it Anno 2205?
Oh yeah.
And that has a very sort of soft end game point where at some point you would have built everything that there is to build, and you may be at the top of whatever list of corporations or whoever, and you can obviously still keep playing, and you're even going to have advice, maybe try to aim to have 1 million citizens or something like this. But so the game never truly ends, but the challenges as such are rare, if any left at all. So I suppose this game can also go forever if you choose.
I think so. I'm playing on the map that I'm playing on isn't really that big by the looks of it, because I think you can change the map size, but because I just basically kept it simple. It's quite a small map, so I think I would get to a point in this game if I kept playing it where I would just run out of space.
Alright.
And then I suppose you could go back and just try and make it more efficient, but I wouldn't, because you'd just be there for years trying to do that. So yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know what the overall goal is, but I don't think it's one of those games where you don't really need an overall goal. It's more about just having the experience, and it's quite a relaxing game to play. It's not like it's not like it's stressful or anything like that. It's small problems rather than big ones. The one thing I will say is that something that really helps the relaxing experience is the music is really, really good in it.
Oh.
It's very chilled out. There's only like 3 or 4 tracks or something, but like the way that I thought about it was that hang on, I wrote this down. It's like a cross between like Tubular Bells and Daft Punk's Tron album. It's like a weird sort of just.
That's my kind of ambience. I like that.
Yeah,
so
like that
I'll have a listen.
very ambient just thing, and because like I say, there was bits here where I was like, oh, that's like that sort of Daft, like the Tron thing where it's like the that sort of repetitive sort of thing, but at the same time there was something weirdly Tubular Bells about the melody, and
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very it's definitely a relaxing game, I would say, and it's one of those things that you can lose yourself in, and I've enjoyed it. I mean, it's made by the same people that made Tropico, and I was expecting a similar experience, but it's not really. It's not really similar to Tropico. I mean, Tropico is about creating a banana republic, of course, but I thought it might have that same sort of city management feel to it. But no, it's got a different city management feel to it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid game, to be honest.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I shall be getting it.
Go for it.
At some point.
What did you call your colony?
Oh, what did I call my colony? I think I called it Bob Agia.
I will not
Because I
pretend that I'm
always do.
surprised.
Okay, right. So that is Surviving Mars by Hamimont Games, published by Paradox. Right, moving on. Dave, what have you been playing?
Right, well, today I'm going to do another entry in the series that I'm calling No More Frustrations, Just Friendly Crustaceans.
You finally settled on a name for it.
Oh my god.
It's all very nautical based for you.
Yep, well, the game I'm going to talk about is called Ace of Seafood, and it is amazing. Has anybody heard of this game?
No.
Me
Nope.
neither. Well, I hadn't until I bought it, because I thought I really need 3 games for this stupid underwater nonsense that I'm doing.
The trio of
Before I
games.
can put an end to it. So, what's the deal with this game? Well, when you start, you get to the main menu, and the first thing you're going to notice is the banging techno music, which is always a good sign in any game. So you fire it up, and the game invites you to select your destiny, I think it says. Something like that. And you have a choice of 5 destinies. You can choose sardine, mackerel, I think there's a shrimp, you could be a spiny lobster, or a salmon as well. I think that was the 5th one.
Did you go mackerel?
I absolutely went mackerel. Well, you see, I thought
you
to
seem
my,
like a mackerel type.
yeah. Well, see, the thing was, I was looking at this and I was like, you know what? I never fucking go mackerel. This time, I'm going to push the boat out and I'm going to choose. I'm
nice
going to
pun.
choose it.
Nice pun.
Ooh.
So you get plonked into the water. It's your very standard underwater deal with rocks and reefs and weeds and shoals and so on, and telephone boxes, and
Obviously.
yeah, it's kind of, it depends depending on whether you choose a fish or a crustacean. Say the controls are slightly different, but it's kind of like flight sim controls. I used the gamepad for this, so you can move around with the sticks, push the shoulder buttons to fire your lasers.
What's happening?
The D-pad changes your weapon, so you can switch to like homing missiles. So they're not missiles, but whatever they are. Or I think the mackerel had some sort of like railgun type deal that you could unlock that as well.
So are there's fish specific weapons?
Yes, that's basically
It's just like real life food.
the gist of it.
I'm very confused.
Pavel's confused because he only ever eats them. He never actually thought about what they're like in their natural environment.
They're always shooting each
Oh,
other.
this game is very realistic, though. I mean, you're not on your own. First of all, I mean, yeah, a lot of you will be saying like, yeah, mackerel are like school fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Dave? Well, no, they've thought of that in this game. You're not just a single mackerel. You've got your squad with you, your mackerel squad. If you look around, you'll see you've got your teammates. When I started the game, there was mackerel number 2, and mackerel number 3, I believe, was there with me as well.
I've never liked mackerel number.
I was mackerel number 1, just in case that wasn't clear.
Hardly constitutes a school, does it?
Wait, there's more. You can use one of your other abilities to create, it calls them decoys, but basically you can hammer this button and you can make quite a lot of them, and suddenly you've gone from 3 mackerel to like 20.
Nice.
You can use the other buttons, the buttons on the right hand side, to select your formation. You can have your mackerel shoaling around you, or you can give them free reign you can go lone wolf and do their own thing. You can have them form a line in front of you. You can't get them to form square, unfortunately. I was a bit disappointed with that. You can form line only. Little Napoleonic reference for you there. And
What's happening?
And off you go. You can swim around, you shoot at things, you'll discover that the environment's destructible, so you can tunnel through reefs and such if you want to. You'll probably come across some like sponges or starfish. You can sort of shoot the shit out of them, and they drop stuff. They drop food because you have to eat in this game because it is very realistic, as I said.
What kind of food does a mackerel eat in this game?
I don't know, they're like small triangles.
Steak pies.
Oh, all right. Steak pie, little triangular steak pies.
Yeah.
The game directed me to go and take over a nearby reef, I think that it calls them. So I headed off in that direction, and the way it showed me, I looked at my sort of fish compass, and it showed me the way to go. I encountered a barracuda on the way. The game suggested that I might want to run away from certain fish because they're quite powerful, but I ignored that and shot the fuck out the barracuda and killed it with the help of macro number 2 and 3. And it dropped some DNA. And I found out later that will, if you pick up the DNA of the fish that you kill, eventually when you get to your base in the reef, your sort of base of operations, you can breed new fish once you've collected a sufficient amount of DNA for them and add them to your squad. But first you have to get to the reef, so I continued towards the reef. I think it was a hay cart or something of that nature that I encountered. Once I got close to it, as you might guess, it was defended. This was not going to be a simple job. It was a bunch of hermit crabs though, so they weren't too challenging. Managed to kill them into the reef. Was able to upgrade my fish using some of the resources that I'd encountered. Spawn some, breed some new ones. Added a few sardines to my team. And then once you're happy with your lineup, you select commence operations, and that puts you back out into the water, and you can go off to the next reef. I think the next one I went to was guarded by like king crabs, I think, and they had a pretty impressive battery of laser weapons at their disposal and put an end to me in short order. But basically that's what you do. You swim around taking over these other reefs and encountering all these different types of fish, killing them, breeding them. It's very similar to Dinosaurs: A Prehistoric Adventure, if anybody's played that. And
you keep bringing that game up.
It genuinely is similar. I'm just saying that as a joke. There are all sorts of different things you can be. There's a variety of fish, crustaceans, cephalopods, World War II era battleships. I believe you can also play as a piece of sushi.
Well, that is seafood.
And
you're not wrong.
That's all I have to say about that game. It was really good.
Excellent. This sounds way better than BattleTech.
Well, I when I was playing it, I thought, you know who'll love this game? Pavel. This is right up his alley.
How many evenings have you spent playing this game, Dave?
Quite a few.
Just
specifically.
No, that's just it informs me on the quality of your entertainment. It's very informative. Thank you.
Does this sound like something you would play, Pavel?
No.
Dave, is there chunky lore in this?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe I haven't explained it properly, Pavel. I mean, this is a game where you can play as a sardine.
Or a mackerel.
You fire lasers, and there's banging techno music while you do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so
if you can sink the Bismarck as a shoal of sardines, and you get an achievement for that.
Excellent.
So it's got historical value as well. You learn about
you learn about the Bismarck and how it was sunk.
That's a no from me. But
what about the mackerel, or actually the mackerel from the £5 note?
All I can say is that I do enjoy sushi.
Well, you might enjoy this game then. Just play as the sushi.
Okay.
That could be your goal. Unlock the sushi.
I'm still confused.
Does everyone have to have a story behind it before you'll play it?
This particular game would not have to have it, no.
Well, there must
so you would play it then?
There must be some sort of story going on here, because the fish are actually about the same size as the battleships. So something's happened to have
developers
a lobster
it's my
that's 200
understanding
feet long.
it's my understanding that Mackerel have miniguns rather than lasers, so something's happened there.
My brain is melting.
Everybody knows that they
What are you
use
doing?
Yeah. They like that burst damage.
They fire
Okay,
shot
well,
control
thanks very
bursts.
much, Dave. That was excellent. Really enjoyed that. That's Ace of Seafood. Who's that by?
By a Japanese guy.
Excellent.
Unsurprisingly. The Nussoft, the
Nussoft.
company's called, I believe so.
And I take it this is a Steam game.
Yeah, it's on Steam. It could well be on other platforms. It does seem like the sort of thing that would be on PS4, but I'm not sure if
Does
it
this
is.
sound like the kind of thing that a PS4 player would play?
Yeah, I mean, as amazing as it was, it's not as good as Tokyo Jungle. And if you haven't played Tokyo
Jungle is
fucking
amazing.
Play that play that instead because it is phenomenal.
Yes, Ace of Seafood is available on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and Android. There you go, Pavel.
Got no excuse for
Yeah,
playing
no
it now.
excuse now. It has a rating of 9 out of 10 on Steam.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Excellent. Right, okay. Retro Games Book Club. Let's do it.
Get ready.
Places where sailors might hang out around here.
Okay, so Retro Games Book Club. This time round it was Pavel's pick.
Hello.
What you got for us?
I'm still recovering from the recent review I've just heard, but it's fine. I shall. I'll manage.
Soldier on, or fish
yeah,
on.
Yeah.
Having said that, in June, franchise as such, there is an entire troupe of female voice, I think, called the ones who talk to fish or something like this.
So it's June, everybody, to answer the question.
I can't remember what they called exactly,
game from
but
the-
it's something
the PC
about talking to fish.
The PC game from 1994, and also available on a few other platforms as well, I believe.
Yes, I've been playing the Mega CD version.
There we go.
Right. Yes, it is June indeed, and hopefully everybody knows what June is in terms of it being a book / a classic film. Anybody that doesn't know what June is, please just don't listen to us because, I mean, shame. So instead of talking about franchise, because everybody knows June, we'll just talk about this particular game. It is old. But that's what our book club is all about. I picked it because I thought I remember what this game was. My memories of it kept saying, you're fond of this game. It was amazing in depth and immersive. And my memories also told me that this game is an adventure game with a lot of dialogues and some limited resource / troop management. It's not.
Are you sure?
I think it has all. Everything
it
you just
has all
described
those
is,
things.
is basically the game I played.
Are you saying it's so much more?
It's
I think you're saying it's so much less, actually. Is that what you're saying?
no. It's just I sat down to play it expecting dialogues because there's all the key characters from the novel or the film if you choose to watch that instead are there and you can have a chat with them. And my memories in fact insisted that this is what the game is about. But
It is. It's going up to fat-headed Duncan, Idaho, and having him tell you how much spice.
how much spice have you
you've picked up
gathered in the past
hour.
15 hours?
He really does look like current day Robert Smith from The Cure.
Those are quite interesting pixel
I do-
art sprites, if you call them that.
I do like his iPad as well.
It's interesting that they've kind of. It's a very pretty-looking game.
for the time.
For
the
even
time,
for the
yeah.
time. They obviously spent a lot of time in the artwork, and they've used mainly the kind of as visual cues the film.
Yeah,
But
they were
then
inspired.
a lot of the
aesthetically.
characters don't look like they do in the film. But like Kyle MacLachlan, for example, is straight up. He is Peter, is Paul.
Indeed.
Peter. That'd be a bit Peter Atreides.
Peter Atreides.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like
The rest of them are just kind of folk they've made up.
I think they were trying to find a happy medium, I would guess, because some characters in David Lynch film were sort of what the book attempted to describe. Some characters were nothing like what the book described, and this is where the game is maybe trying to recreate the description from the book.
The Duncan Idaho that turns up in the game is nothing like what the books describe.
He is just a pig in a black suit, isn't he?
Basically, it is.
they're creative though. They have distinctive looks.
They
all
do,
the-
yeah,
Apart
they
from
do
the
all have a bit
apart
of
from the
personality.
Fremen, but then they
Yeah,
all
but
have
they're
quite
just
unusual
faceless
haircuts.
troops.
Yeah,
I would have liked Leto to look like Jurgen Prochnov, but that's just my
I know.
personal preference.
It would have been nice to have Patrick Stewart in it as well. You can't have everything.
What
Can't have
about Sting,
Patrick
though?
Stewart and everything. Yeah, it's not really Sting, but you can. I mean. It's always going to be Sting, though. Like, when he appeared on the screen, I was like, it's Sting! He looks so different!
Meant to be Sting.
Right, but one thing. So, Pawel, I mean, you're talking about, you remember it was full of dialogue and it was all about chatting to people, but that's probably because back in those days there weren't very many games that were fully voiced like this is.
Indeed.
And actually, the voices are done quite well. Like,
Pretty good.
Because there's a lot of like modern games that are fully voiced, and it's clear that the voice actors have no context of what they're saying. So like they'll say something and it sounds really weird because it doesn't sound like the intonation's wrong or whatever for what they're actually trying to say. Whereas in this, it sounds like the actual dialogue's been done and the voice actors knew what it was that they were supposed to be talking about. It sounds really natural.
Which is an achievement,
It
especially back
is
in
an
the
achievement,
Yeah,
yes.
and this game was an important thing back in the day. So yeah, we're returning to it was definitely going to bring up a lot of fond memories, but some of those memories a little bit choked on what the game really is, which is a very, very early attempt to make a strategy game rather than anything else, because it's all about spice and troops. And the fact that you actually talk to, characters from the book is what you would do in a modern game. I suppose you would just do it with a few clicks and maybe a tutorial option or something like that. None of these conversations bring anything to the story apart from potentially giving you a little bit of background information, but usually no more than maybe 2 or 3 sentences, and that's that.
There is a story, though.
There is a story, as limited as it is, but I thought this game is all about it, but instead you set out to explore the deserts of June, finding nameless tribal leaders who decide that you are indeed the one to tell them what to do from the moment they see you, because could he be the one? Could he be the one? and you essentially tell them, you know what?
Yep, that's me.
Just dig it, dig it, and
Dig
I'll be
that
back.
spice.
And that came a bit as a surprise. The one thing I did remember, and it was amazing to experience this and during the video game, was all the facial close-ups. I think that whoever came up with the idea to add that must have had a reason for it. When you're chatting with your various NPCs, from time to time, I'm not sure if there is an actual algorithm behind it, whether this is supposed to be some sort of highlighting of certain topics, or I don't know, rushing you up if you're taking your time reading through what they have to say, and normally they only have like 3 sentences, and most of them are just how.
Just for context, like by this point, the game would have zoomed in really close to Pawel's face.
And you see,
Because
maybe
he's taken
so
ages
long to make his point. Right, okay.
That's pretty much that. So what you're saying is that the algorithm is...
See, this is the thing. I've never experienced that facial close-up thing that you're talking about.
I think it might actually be idle. Is it not idling?
When you're idle.
It definitely happens when you idle. If you leave it,
Right.
it will zoom into their face. But it might
never
happen in
experienced
other situations as well, which...
I'm sure I've talked to Gani Chalik a few
yeah.
times, and he was trying to make a point, and this is whether
I do know what you mean.
Jessica must have done it. Like, use really special Paul, and you get this facial close-up, and suddenly I realize, yes, I am special.
I'm guessing it's to make the most of the eyebrow animations, which are
those
like
are
all
excellent.
every character
all over the place. Like,
they're constantly flapping their eyebrows at you. It's all really suggestive.
yeah, Duncan Idaho just looks like he doesn't believe a word you're saying.
My another different memory of childhood was being in the ornithopter and flying through that desert and actually exploring, trying to find something.
Yeah, but right. So if we actually explain what you do in this game, though, because
I'm not entirely sure. You tell troops what to,
so you start off in the palace. You've got the
dig.
You've got the whole sort of Dune thing going on, where you're some sort of chosen one, and you're sent out to do your dad's bidding.
I've got a screenshot somewhere.
Yeah, you're in this game. Your father, Duke Leto, puts you in charge of the spice mining.
Yes,
because it doesn't totally follow the plot of the book or the film, but there are parallels with each. So that's your job. So he sends you out to go to some nearby CHs to get in touch with the Fremen,
who are just people who live on Dune.
Yeah, they're the indigenous, the sort of Aboriginal people, and the idea is that they're going to help us with the spice mining.
Well, they take a liking to you for some reason.
Yes,
not really
they see you as the chosen one.
as soon as you turn up, that's the...
Yeah.
They're like, could he be the one?
Yeah.
So, it turns out they've got some sort of prophecy about someone who's going to come and lead them to their destiny, which ultimately is terraforming Dune, or not terraforming it, returning it to being a lush green planet from its current dry, arid, deserty state. But of course, this would also destroy the spice production.
Yes,
and the spice rules the universe in the Dune universe. It drives everything. It's basically a sort of allegory for oil.
Well, the book is full of allegories and symbolism, yeah, but try and fit even a little bit of that in a video game, and you come up with fantastic narrative. I took a screenshot actually of one of Lady Jessica's conversations, which is essentially nothing more than exposition, so that the player knows that Jessica is in fact your mother/trainer. So, I gave you more than an education. It was more a kind of special training. I expect that here, on this very special planet, you will discover that you have special powers. And I just... When I saw 3 words for special on a single window, I thought I had to take a screenshot of that, because it's just glorious.
But they're really drilling that point home, that you're the special person.
Could he be the
as
one?
Paul?
Is what the Fremen
and
think.
Paul's a terrible name for a hero, by the way.
I don't know. I mean, Paul is essentially a British
call him Colin.
equivalent of Pawel, so it works for me.
True. Yeah, true. So you go out, you meet these Fremen, you chat to them, they'll come and work for you, you'll start them digging up spice, you'll go and find other of these sieges, and eventually, you get to this whole point where you get some Fremen woman who starts following you around, and then you go and meet with a Fremen leader, a great man, and then eventually, because you meet him, the Fremen will decide to start fighting for you, because there's the evil Harkonnen, who are also taking over a quarter of the planet or something like that, and they're just there to cause bother. So yeah, you start setting up this whole strategy thing. Now, I'll say that I didn't really get past this point, so I've never actually got involved in any of the combat or anything, but I have started training in the military. But one of the things you can do in this game is that you can fly about to the different sieges and tell people, okay, there's a harvester nearby, go and get that. That'll help you dig up the spice. Or this siege is rubbish for spice. Go over to that siege and start digging that one up, because there's lots of spice there. Because there's another part of the game where there's prospectors that you find who you can send around to the sieges, and they can, prospect the place and see what the spice is like there. So if you find that there's a denser or better quality spice or something somewhere else, you can send the people in the crap places to the good places. And you have to meet the Emperor's demand every few days, and you have to rocket some spice off to him. Now, so far, that has been a piece of piss for me. Like, I've got something like 30,000 kilos of spice sitting, and he only wants like 2,000 or something every time.
It goes up exponentially.
I thought it might. But
And it's 6,000 he asked for the last time.
so the first one that I sent him like double the amount.
What happened when you did
So
that?
what happens is I missed the next delivery, and he let me off with it. But he told me, he says he doesn't give you any penalty for missing it, but you still have to send it.
Right.
So you can delay the payment basically, but it just means that it gives you a bit more time to go and do other things, because flying back and forward to the palace is kind of annoying.
Yeah, it makes sense. It would make sense at the start when they're really low values as well.
Yeah.
And flying between those sieges and other points of interest seems to be one of the main activities in the game, whereas
Yes,
there's very little point to it, apart from, I suppose, just making you aware that you are in fact on planet June, which is a desert, because you end up you fly to a siege, you walk into it, which is essentially just pressing directional buttons and like an old school RPGs, yeah?
Yeah, it's like an old school text
But
adventure almost.
You walk exactly. So another, I don't know, square forward, and you're suddenly in a siege where there is an NPC. You click on it, and your conversation with it is with him or her is essentially just one.
We've
one
heard
option,
of you.
One option. Who could he be the one?
Yes, could he be the one?
One option you click on, and that's you done. You move out and you fly elsewhere. So this is something that could have been achieved by just having a tactical strategic map and just selecting your troops and giving them
You kind of
orders.
can do that though, because this is the part that Paul's power lets you contact the sieges from far away, and as you go further through the game, his powers get like they
More
increase,
special.
and you can contact people further away.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, if you want to go and tell a siege that's miles away to go and do something else, you have to fly there because you can't contact them from that far.
Yeah, but the game is in real time.
Yes.
And that's part of it. Managing that is part of that. If you just wander about, the little sun and moon go round and time passes.
And you can just wander off into the desert if you want.
To trigger
you have a
the death animation.
hallucination.
Yeah.
I really love the fact if you load the game after a death after you die and you get the death animation, it reverses it.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen that. I don't think I died though.
Yeah. Well, certainly in the PC version, because you
Interesting.
collapse.
Well, you
in
have
the
to attempt
desert and
to
become
die exactly.
Sort of like become a dried up
Jessica
wither
tells
husk.
you to go out and whatever, spend time in the desert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You have to do that as part of the game.
Indeed, yeah.
Once you've got your still suit.
Right, so can somebody then tell me what happens with the military side of things? Because, like I say, I've not actually got to the point of engaging the Harkonnens.
Well, at some point you have to have military strong enough to defeat the Harkonnens, but also at some point you'll tell the Emperor, the Ming the Terrible from Flash Gordon, that you're not gonna do it anymore because instead you're turning Dune into.
You're not going to do what? Sorry, send them spice.
Yeah, because one of the endings, and I think this game has multiple, as in you can either choose to turn Dune into a green planet, actually start watering plants, I suppose, all the Fremen just turn into gardeners. But this is all about equipping your troops with better and better weapons, from your Chris knives up to nuclear weapons and sonic weapons and stuff like this. I've completed the game ages ago, and not this time.
So how does the combat work though? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, it's same way as your prospectors. At some point, you just
send them out.
Yeah, you're gonna.
And they'll either win or die.
In various provinces, troops with different morale is the only real attribute your troops have.
Okay.
And equipment is sort of like a
there's their training level as well. Like they can become more proficient at fighting.
Yeah, they will tell you we're proficient at mining, we're proficient at fighting,
which just happens
happy
over
to
time.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just send them to Harkonnen strongholds.
Right.
And they'll either win or they'll lose, and they can get captured if they're lost. You can send spies to the strongholds, and they will, I think, allow you to gauge the strength of the Harkonnen garrison there. But the spies can get captured as well. I assume that depends on their competency as military units. But there's no like graphical aspect to it beyond that. They just do a little animation on the map while they're fighting, waving their little prize knife, and then you can rescue them if they're captured. And the Harkonnens move about a little bit as well. Like they will take back undefended sieges and so on, a wee bit. I don't think they're particularly aggressive.
The reason I'm asking that is because I was wondering if there was some sort of precursor to Dune 2 going on during the combat, but it turns out it's not. Because Dune 2 is a completely different game.
Very different.
Completely different company as well. So, yeah.
So I was just wondering if there was some sort of like weird little thing that happened that you had to control, or if it was just abstracted, basically.
As far as control goes, and as far as gameplay elements go, if you've played this to the point where you get prospectors, you've seen it all. If you've sent your troops to get the harvester, then you've seen all of the gameplay. Combat doesn't really differ much from sending prospectors to maybe look for spice elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you new places to mine spice because you will run out, and there's no way you can keep fulfilling those demands of the Emperor. So you have to go at a certain pace because initially, if you don't do a shipment to the Emperor, you lose the game. So that's the kind of driving factor in it.
Well, that's pretty good though, because then that's the game pushing you further on to actually do something rather than just hang about mining spice all day.
Yeah, I think that's why it goes up every time as well.
So it
pushes you on, but it's interesting because you're doing this stuff, but at the same time, there's the story that you progress as well, which is relatively linear. I mean, it tells you what to do next. And they'll be like, "Oh, there's another siege here. Go there," or like. I'm at the point where Stilgar is like hooking me up with Chani. It's a bit weird. He's like, "Oh, there's this woman you should meet," and we go off to the siege, and there she is. But I haven't quite figured out what the deal with her is yet because she doesn't want to leave, which is a bit strange.
She won't come with me.
Still trying to kidnap her, Dave.
I know. I'm not sure. There's this. You have to figure out a little bit sometimes what exactly it
like
is
a wee condition that needs to be met.
You want to do next. It's not always immediately obvious. Sometimes it's really clear. They're like, "Go here."
Sometimes
give
the
you a bit of
characters
freedom
just
within the game
in
to
the wrong room in your palace, and you just
It gives you a bit of an illusion of freedom. And there's a wee bit. I discovered somewhere in one of the Seiches. There's a place. One of the Seiches you explore very early on in the game. The Fremen refuse to leave it, and there's a room behind them that you can't get to. But eventually, maybe when you get Stilgar on your team, the big Fremen leader, you can move them. You can move those guys after that point, and then you can get into the back room. So unprompted, I went somewhere and discovered something. So that was quite nice. Because about everything else I'd done, I'd been like railroaded by.
Yeah. I mean, the game does railroad you, but I mean, there are some wee things in it, like, you know, I was saying to you and earlier when we were talking about this, like, if you keep talking to some of the Fremen, they will eventually say to you, "Oh, by the way, there's a siege just over there."
Yep.
And then you can just fly in that direction and find it, and then there might be people, or generally that's filled with equipment or something.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for them to tell you where the sieges are as well.
Oh, no, you can just fly about.
You can, like, use your memory of previous games, say, and go, "Well, I know there's one there," so that gives you a wee bump up if you've started a new game. Yeah, there's nice things. I like that Duke Leto gives you cheek if you go out into the balcony.
Oh yeah, he does that. It's like, "Oh, enjoy the view, did you?" or something like that. Right, we're overrunning quite badly here, so let's just get some final thoughts on Dune then. Euan, how did you find the game? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I enjoyed I definitely initially really enjoyed it, and then I did find that it seemed like the gameplay was going to get a little bit repetitive and kind of laborious, so that was kind of the point I sort of jumped off. But I gave it a good shot. Like Pawel says, once I had the sort of the prospecting thing in place, and I could see about how you move units about the place, I could say, all right, I get the idea. This is just going to expand in that way, because it kind of felt to me like we were talking. I mean, it's not the same as Megalomania and how it works, but we were just talking about that sort of kind of. They've tried something, and it's not necessarily stuck. Like there's not. I can't think of any games like that, like Dune. Certainly that version of Dune.
I think it's got very early mechanics though.
Yeah,
I think games kind of started to move on quite quickly after that, because sort of hitting in the mid-90s. Dave,
I really enjoyed playing it. I found it very atmospheric. I loved the music. The music.
Oh yeah,
was
the music
fantastic.
is really good in it. Yeah.
I really enjoyed flying my ornithopter, and we'd often just let it fly on its own for a little bit instead of skipping immediately to the destination, so that I could listen to the music for a little while. And it just looks really good, and I really liked the fact that you could wander about the locations, and it wasn't just like click on a map. You could go into like the back room and look in the mirror and see your eyes turn blue over time through the actions of the spice. And it's like an unusual game because it's a blend of two things.
Yeah.
That we don't really see that. I can't think of a modern game that attempts to quite do that.
That's one of the things, because this game does start with like, I mean, if you let somebody play through the first sort of 5-10 minutes of this game, they would never be able to guess what it would turn into, because you're wandering about in rooms, chatting to people, you know.
Yeah.
Here's your thing, go out and explore a bit, but you would never really think that it would turn into a game of moving men around and mining spice and picking up equipment and yeah, because you're right, it's like two different things.
I like
going
games
on at once.
that are quirky hybrids.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, so it was good.
Pawel, has your opinion on it changed since your childhood?
Well, that game has maybe not aged as well as I thought. It did remind me of plenty of games like Might and Magic and stuff like that, where you would just press left to right or forward and move by one space and maybe encounter something. So that was nice. I'm already looking forward to more book club games, and I might just come up with... I think there was a game I remember I played to the point where I've spent nearly a month making this huge map of all spaces available in the game, on the game's map as such. It was one of the old Might and Magics, I think. But other than that, it did surprise me. I was just resource management, and very, very easy in a way. You don't feel like you're actually making any decisions. You're following commands.
No, but I think that's one of the first games that did something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That did this sort of moving things around on a map and strategically. Anyway.
Oh, definitely, because again, my memory
says
says
it is an early game.
This is something new.
Yeah, well,
this is something unique.
in a very kind of graphical and attractive way as well. There are lots of strategy games on the NES and stuff, but you know, they were very dry and based around numbers. There's no numbers. Well, there are, but they're very minimal, and so it was a more modern take on that kind of strategy game. And you click everywhere. Like, you can't. There's no keys, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but like, it was a mouse-driven game, and that was a big deal. Whereas now we would probably want some keyboard shortcuts on the PC.
Yeah.
But then it was like, no, we're going to use the mouse to drive everything. And so it was a real kind of slice of nostalgia for me to play it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, same, because I did play it when I was younger, because we had a Mega CD in the house, and that was what I played it on. So there was no mouse in it. It was really just doing the whole. You've got the little hand on the screen that you can move left and right, and up and down, just to go to the various buttons and things that you can press. But
no
it
menus.
worked.
Like we tend to have menus now in our games, but no, in those days it was imagined that you would just have icons and these strange visual representations of everything just hidden all over the place.
So yeah, for me, it was a good trip down memory lane. I might go back and just start doing some of the combat stuff just to see how it works, really, just to experience it for myself. But I mean, I think it's like, for when it came out, it was a good attempt at sort of early strategy style games, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's the Retro Games Book Club. We really are going to have to wrap this up.
Sorry.
Now, I've got two things. First up, the next Retro Games Book Club, I need to pick a game for it. So, Dave, it's back to your pick.
Yep, I'm choosing another game from 1994 or thereabouts.
By the way, according to this, Dune came out in 1992.
92?
Yeah.
Oh, that's 1 year earlier. I actually thought it was 93, so I don't know why I said 94. Just obsessed with 1994. Well, possibly this game comes from 1994, maybe it doesn't. It's called Ecstatica. I don't think many people have played it. It's a bit like Alone in the Dark. It's not as good as Alone in the Dark, but it has its own very particular charms, and that's why I've chosen it.
What platforms is that on? Do you know?
PC only.
Is that a PC only thing?
As far as I know.
Okay, right, so we'll check that out. If you want to join in, if you're listening to this, then please go and play that game, or if you remember it for your childhood or something, and let us know your feelings on it, and we will read them out. The other thing is that now that we've finally all done one Retro Games Book Club game, I can finish off the quiz that I've been preparing for you, because some of the questions in it were going to be related to the games that we've played in Retro Games Book Club. So there was no point in doing it before, so hopefully in the next couple of episodes I'll have a quiz for you, and just to give you a preview. Oh, that one's no battery. But this, we have buzzers.
Hey.
So, yeah, look forward to that. Right, let's do our internets. I'm going to get through these as quick as possible. So if you want to email us any thoughts, questions that you want us to read out in the show or anything like that, you can do that at firstplayertoken@gmail.com. It's FIRST playertoken, all one word. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. We have a PSN community. We also have a Discord. Everything is First Player Token or the large and unnecessary First Player Token. The Twitter is at 1ST Player Token.
Once player token, innit?
Well done, Euan, thank you very much. The Discord is discord.me/firstplayertoken, as in FIRST, if you want to find us in there. My Twitch username is UnnecessaryChris, and we are part of the Podnose Network.
UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
I'd ask you if there's any news, Euan, but we're out of time.
Oh, fine.
So, that's been episode 83. We'll be back next week, which will probably again be a video games episode. But until then, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye!
Bye!